Thank you very much. We are back in our session, Fiscal Affairs Committee meeting. It's approximately 1:45 this afternoon. In the afternoon, August 12th, 2025. And we have the Secretary of Finance, her team, and Office of Special Assistant to Management and Budget, Ms. Vicky, and her team to continue discussion on the Concurrent Resolution 24-2. So we left off with a conversation, as mentioned earlier, of entertaining page 2, line 14 of the concurrent resolution, reference to MVA's 80% for CMC subsection 1803, to which some of the recommendations presented by the Secretary of Finance. Of the 80%, there's additional 4.5% that are committed for enforcement and OPA. If I understand. So right now we are at whatever 80% of the occupancy tax, 7.085. But upon hearing the conversation this morning that we have, the challenges and the realistic rebound of our tourism industry, I would like to think that this may be premature figures, to which that brings us to this afternoon's conversation, Secretary. So there are three scenarios that MBA has: the scenario 1, 2, and 3. Can you again restate what your comment earlier on to how to meet at least scenario 2?
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. So we did some preliminary calculation on the MVA numbers. And so with scenario 1, the MVA portion would be 6.3 million. That's the 80%. And so from there, we can extrapolate that the gross collection of hotel occupancy tax comes out to 7.939. So with our current forecast, that's a shortage of 183,000. That's with scenario 1. And then with scenario 2, using the same methodology, MVA forecast for their 80% is 4.9 million, which means the gross hotel occupancy collection is at 6.1. So the change in our current revenue projection is 533,000 shortage, and that is the same for scenario 3 as well. So that's the impact based on their forecast of flights and the projection. So with what they're presenting there as 6.4, that's with additional funds in addition to what they get from the hotel occupancy tax. That's their request. So for example, in scenario 1, with the current projection that they shared, the hotel occupancy tax would only give them gross would be 6.3 million to the MVA trust fund, and then that's further reduced because of the earmarks to the municipalities and to DOF. So their net budget to MVA is only 4.5 million. Thus, they're asking for additional funds from the 4.5 to reach the 10 million. So it's a little bit, they're adding a little bit more to their budget request that's being presented up there. And what I'm presenting is how it's affecting the revenue forecast for our general fund budget purposes. So I don't want to get too confusing there, so maybe we could just focus on the budget rather than MVA's request at this time. Yeah.
Correct. So again, I don't know if I asked it earlier, but so let's say, for example, for budgetary, let's focus on this. Let's say, for example, something, what is the representation of 7.0 right now with the 80%? What's the representation at face value of the current projection?
7.0? What do you
Yeah, 7.085. That's the MBA, 80% right
Yeah.
now. What's 20%
What's the
more of that?
gross- What's the gross of the?
Gross? I'm sorry, yeah.
It was the 8 million that we have in our revenue forecast. 1 second.
It's the
0.85.
the net.
I think it's 8.8 or something, no? Okay, so let's say, for example, given the presentation and and of course the Hanmi's pictograph or slide, I think we all can agree that as much as we want to be optimistic for the next fiscal year, there's still that effort that needs to be made, no? With the flights, with the profitability of the aircraft coming in, with the running number or the hotel rates and all that. So everything is a representative of that. So I want to ask this: is using 7.0 as the gross comfortable with the finance, the administration?
Well, we rely on MBA's data for our projection, and so with the updated numbers that we have from them today and our calculation of what they provided, it looks like scenario 2 would be the most realistic projection that's more aligned with our current revenue projection, which means a 533,000 impact to the revenue projection if we were to, if this body were to accept that
Okay.
updated numbers from MBA.
All right. So I'm gonna withhold my further question and allow some of the members to chime in on this, tracking this conversation. Any member would like to assist with questions to the Secretary of Finance?
If I may, Chair,
Senator Donald.
do you have information on as to how much has been given to Rhoda and Tinian for the current fiscal year?
Yes, we have the updated monthly collection report. And so as of July, the July collections, the total to the MVA trust, MVA shares 2.9 million. And then the 2% share to the municipalities is 58,874. And the DOF share for the 2.5% is 73,593.
What is that? 58,000
That's the 2% of the MVA trust fund to the municipalities.
each month.
No, that's
For
cumulative.
yeah.
Cumulative.
And so your impression is that the 2%, you're going with the 2% as opposed to the 200,000.
Right now with
Or
what I'm
300,000.
presenting, yes, it's the 2% calculation on the actual collections.
When it should be, Council, 300,000, yes?
The current, if I may chime in, Senator Donald. So I think it's 300,000. The HOT, the whatever subsection 1803, 300,000 or 2% in excess of that, right? Whichever is greater.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's 350,000, it's 2% of 350.
Well, what I'm presenting to you is what we actually transferred
Okay.
from actual collections. And I know this has been a topic that we've discussed with both joint delegations, Rhoda and Tinian, on the finance approach, which MVA was also included in that discussion. And so the timing of the payments, whether the 300 or an amount that could be acceptable or reasonable with MVA was discussed, whether they could upfront that. And compared to our current methodology where we just calculate the 2% of the actual that's collected. And at the end of the year, if there's a shortage between what was provided to the municipalities and the 300, then that amount could be provided to them through the MBA trust fund, because that percentage is already in the MBA account. So I know that that was up for discussion with MBA. As you can see, they are struggling also to boost the tourism. And so I think that was where that discussion left off, was how can we move forward, whether this is going to be up at the front or towards the end. But for finance, we would just stay as is with the transfers on a monthly basis, so that's something you can rely on, the 2%. But it's the gap between the 2% and the 300,000. So I just wanted to reiterate the discussions that we've already had as to what finance is doing and all of that.
So it would be on the responsibility of MBA to remit the difference
Yes.
between what
Yeah.
has been remitted. Okay. What is the? Are we expected to meet the projections for the remainder of the fiscal year, for the current projections?
Our current collection to date is 3.7 million, and our forecast for FY25 is 5.5 gross collection. So I would say at this point in time, because of the fluctuations in the collections, because of outside factors beyond our control, like the Jeju crash that happened in the first quarter, and then the suspension of flights in the third quarter. Those are factors that we did not anticipate when we were doing the forecast, right? We were basing the forecast off of FY24 performance, which was stronger than FY25. So you can see the vulnerabilities of the hotel occupancy tax. But to answer your question, with, August and September, we only have 2 months, about 2 months remaining. And because of the challenges that were stated today, I would think we would probably not meet the forecast for this tax category,
Okay.
unless there's changes that happen between now and then that would increase the flights, or other form of arrival, whether by sea or
Okay, so now just going back to the 80% that was originally proposed, are you comfortable enough to stick to that value?
again, like I stated, with the MVA updated forecast, I would rely on their data that they're providing as to a number that that we're comfortable with, because our initial projection again was based on the MBA projection. And if they're providing an updated projection for the hotel occupancy tax based on the current information that they have and upcoming events that they're aware of, I would say their scenario 2 is something that we should consider, because it's a status quo scenario.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all I had for now, Chair.
Thank you, Senator Dono Manglonia. Any member, would you like to have any? Senator Calvo, you have any?
Yes.
Recognize.
Thank you, Secretary. I just wanted to revisit, I know earlier prior to that in alignment with the, the exemption portion, how you mentioned is very difficult to subsidize the funding, and this is an enlightenment in regards to what other options we have. The exemption of, I wrote down 1%, but that would be the 2% mark, or?
The
Yeah.
OPA is 1%.
1%, oh, OPA, okay. And then the earmark trust fund, so that would mean, yes, can you explain that one a little bit for me? That would be the municipalities funding?
Yes. So currently, the statute in question was the earmarks of the MVA trust fund. So from our gross hotel occupancy tax, 80% goes to the MVA trust fund. And then from there, 2% of the collection, or 300,000, goes to each municipality, and then a 2.5% goes to Department of Finance. So one of the budget provisions that we recommend for consideration was those earmarks from the MVA trust fund so that it would remain whole for MVA and to address their the gap that they need to stabilize the flights.
And that's pertaining to scenario 2 or that 1? It would be 1 then? Would it pertain to the one they're proposing?
All 3.
Oh, all
Because
3.
we are short. So of course, scenario 1, I assume, is the ideal scenario, but if we were looking at scenario 2, and that is the status quo, even if we were to look at the hotel occupancy tax and MVA trust fund remains whole with no earmarks to municipality, no earmark to Department of Finance, that is still projected based on their numbers at only 4.9 million, and they're asking for 6.4. So I'm saying we should consider all options on how to get them closer to the 6.4. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
Citizens Mossy, Senator Caldwell, any member further? Before I Secretary, just I know I've seen this in the past, but I wanted to ask again, sticking with page 2, the IDC, the 35% one CMC 2893, 937, 843. Is that it's known that that's IDC for the grants. That's a projection of the indirect costs that they're going to generate as a result of grants, successful grants. No, is that pretty constant?
Yes.
I don't have my data in front of me, but is that pretty constant every year, or?
Oh, for sure. As long as we have federal grants that are active, we anticipate IDC to be collected.
Okay. So basically, this is a product of 1949, which became law. And I'm just asking again because right now we're looking at ways to service MBA. So I'm looking at all that information. I'm actually I don't have any further questions with regards to the conversation from earlier this morning and today, and unless the members don't have any further. Oh, I want to recognize Senator Paul Manglonia for the first time.
Just listening to the secretary, you say that you trust the numbers of MVA, and that's why we're targeting for 6.4, second scenario. So why don't we try the first one? I mean, if you believe their numbers, what would the additional revenue be if we? And I know that we're talking about money, right? But I'm just putting that aside first. What would the difference be if we give them the first scenario? Would that mean how much? 10 million more in our revenue, or what kind of projection are you looking at if we give them the first scenario?
So thanks for that question. I just wanted to clarify again that the 10 million is not the gross hotel occupancy tax that they're projecting. In their scenario 1, the gross hotel occupancy tax that the government will collect is only 7.9 million. And then the MVA portion of that, the 80%, is only 6.3. So
to come up with,
even with that scenario, they're still short, right? With the hotel occupancy tax specifically, they're only going to get 6.3, even if the earmarks were suspended. So they're asking for additional funding, whether it's within the general fund or outside the general fund, of 6.3 additional funding. If the earmarks stay in place, they're actually only going to get 4.5. So again, it's even the hotel occupancy tax is not enough to meet the budget request of what MVA is
Yeah,
presenting.
but I guess my question is, if somehow they got that money that they're asking, what difference would the total revenue be for the CNMI? How much would that give the CNMI in terms of additional revenue because we gave them what they want?
I don't have that data right now. What you're asking for is like a multiplier.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, right.
For every dollar that we invest into tourism, what's the multiplier?
Because you seem to say that you depend on their.
I only depend on their forecast for the hotel occupancy tax category. Yeah.
Oh,
That's it.
I see, I
So
see.
it's just for that specific category because they have all the data to back up what's the basis for that collection on the hotel occupancy tax, which is very good, right? It's reliable data. We have the industry experts here to explain. So in that sense, that's where I rely on MBA for the hotel occupancy tax category. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Poe. Recognize Senator Cabo.
Yes, this may be, Secretary, this may be off of that topic regarding the MVA and MVA regarding, but if we can, in regards to attachment B for third quarter on, yes. Attachment B, we have numbers here that discrepancy. I just wanted to see, can we clarify the executive branch's totals on activities? When you add everything up,
Can you give us a page number and a specific question?
It's on your report
Mm-hmm.
for the executive expenditures, actual expenditures.
Uh-huh. Is that on page 11 or?
I think there's no page.
I didn't.
Let's take a quick recess here.
Yes.
Thank you, Senator Calvo. And I mean, the question that was posted is with respect to the third quarter financial report submitted by the Secretary of Finance and her team. And there was a question posed by Senator Calvo, to which the Secretary is going to bring back the spreadsheet or the information to compare and to identify the possible discrepancy, as pointed out. But at this time, if there's no objection from the members, I do want to recognize Dave Limopon to ask a question with regards to revolving fund. Go ahead, Dave.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'm addressing this question to Secretary of Finance with respect to the hot tax for MVA for FY 2026 budget. Right now, it's showing there an allocation of 80%. So the first thing that we want to clarify is that this 80% represents an allocation for MVA trust fund. Is that correct, Ms. Secretary? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, now, in your understanding about the law, in distributing the additional percentage that's going to be taken out from this allocation of approximately $7.1 million, I believe 1% will go to OPA, right? And then 2.5% for enforcement.
Yes,
Right.
correct.
Then after that, 2%, no less than 2% or no less than 300,000, whichever is greater, will then taken out as well out of this 80% allocation. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then the net amount eventually goes to MVA for their operation, right?
That's our current methodology. Yeah.
Yes, that's the understanding, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I looked at the budget for MVA for FY 2026
Mm-hmm.
and your distribution for the allocation for the 3 senatorial districts is allocated 2% each or 6% total. Do you agree with that in accordance with the law, the statute? Because the statute says no less than 2% or no less than $300,000, whichever is greater, would then be taken out from the MVA trust account. I just want to share that, Mr. Secretary. Thank you.
I can't speak for MVA. If that was their budget proposal and that was their presentation, that was a question that was probably best asked of MVA. Again, we have our own methodology, so regardless of what MVA provides in their budget submission and their calculation, we go off the actual collection. So.
Thank you, Secretary. So, returning back to the conversation on House Concurrent Resolution 24-2, I want to ask any of the member, do they have any further question to the Secretary before we recess, before we dismiss them? And Senator Poe.
Yeah, Chairman, just one quick question. I'm sorry I was not in this morning's informal meeting, but in case the government gets the 29 million for the retirement, do we need to? I guess we need to come in and amend the usage of that, right, to replace, but we don't need to identify additional revenue for that?
No, the governor's proposal already includes an assumption that we will be successful in securing the 29 million pension loan from MPLT. And I'm glad you brought that up, Senator, because that is something that has a greater impact to the budget than the hotel occupancy tax. So I understand today's focus of the meeting was with MVA and HANMI and the hotel occupancy tax category. However, the bigger impact to the budget is the MPLT pension bond because of the minimum annual payment to the settlement fund. And should we not be successful with that, it's a $29 million impact to the budget. And I think we would like to, again, the administration would like to express that we need the support of this body. I know that we've had multiple discussions at MPLT, and that the Senate was invited, and the invitation was passed on to this committee. We've met over maybe I'd say 4 or 5 times, discussing the terms of the bond, what is needed, and right now, at this point in time, it's legislation that's needed. We've already discussed and finalized the terms that might be acceptable or most acceptable to the trustees, but one of the requirements is to have legislative withholding of the interest from MPLT as the repayment. So again, in order to be successful, we do need legislative action. And so we anticipate that that would be in front of you for action. But again, should there be a meeting to discuss so that you have any questions about the 29 million, especially with MPLT, the invitation has been sent to the Senate, to this committee specifically, to join us in those discussions with MPLT, with the House, so that we are successful and so that the hotel occupancy tax is really what the only issue we're talking about. But if we are not successful with MPLT, we have a bigger problem now because of the $20 million cut that we're going to have to make. So again, I reiterate, we would like the support of this committee to get us across the finish line.
Do you have the floor?
Let's say we had the loan yesterday, so we could pay already retirement. So we don't need to acknowledge that in the appropriation measure?
That is exactly how we proposed the budget, was the pension repayment to MPLT, assuming that we do get the loan now until October 1st. That's the current proposal.
Okay. So if we get the loan, we have 29 million seating that's not used, right?
No. The purpose of the loan is for the minimum annual payment to the settlement fund. It will
It's
go
just for the
directly-
annual,
Yeah.
just for next year.
Right, and so
But and we're going to be discussing this. I'm sorry, Senator Poe, but what the committee which will be further discussing, Secretary, there are some few of us that have concerns with the ability for us to loan because of the number one, there are some reports coming out that is problematic for us to engage into another debt, which we want to discuss, in the appropriate time. Number two, the presentation that was made by the face value of the budget, in our opinion, kind of violated the settlement agreement because it did not point out the actual funding for the 29 million as mandated by the court order. So that's why we migrated some of the funds in the other programs within the representation from the administration to be able to arrive at a $29 million appropriation to meet the minimum annual payment, which we are about to, present on full board tomorrow hopefully tomorrow during session. So that's something that, and I'm glad that Senator Poe brought it up. I do want to say that yes, there was some invitation, but there are some also reservations, extreme reservations by the members of the Senate as to engaging into another agreement loan to represent 1 year of minimum annual payment. So in a nutshell, that's basically summarizes the position of the committee at the time, even with the leadership of former Senate President Dennis Mendiola, who is now the LT. And I see Senator Donald. Would you like to? You ready, done? Oh, you're done, Senator Poe? Okay, go ahead, Senator Manglonia Nano.
Thank you, Chairman. When will the CETA, sorry, not the CETA, when will the loan agreement be paid off with the MPOT, or is it the CETA loan, or with MPOT? When is that going to be paid off? Expected to be paid off?
This fiscal year, I believe, if not this month.
And what was the discussion in terms of tying that interest income that we'll be paying the pension bond when it's somewhat tied up to the EDA?
Well, in the working group discussion, this is the preference of the trustees, is to be able to use that as the repayment for the pension bond. And as far as the EDA, because that's a separate line of credit, which anticipates the reimbursement, and because of our performance in the line of credit and our timeliness of our reporting, they feel confident to offer us this pension bond through the withholding of the interest. So I hope that answers your question on the EDA part of it. But I do know that the trustees made a decision to entertain the repayment of the proposed pension loan using the withholding. And again, Senator, the invitation is open to join the working group meetings between now and when the budget passes, so that the questions can be also, your questions can also be answered by MPLT as well. And I believe that invitation is sent to this committee.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. But and going back to what the chair had mentioned in regards to concerns from the members, is that if we proceed with this 29 million bond with MPOT, what's going to save us in fiscal year 27 when we can't increase our projected revenue by similar to the 29 million? What's our plan for that time? And do we really need 29 million? Is there a working number that we can go below and reserve additional, reserve some of that money that we're attempting to get from MPOT for future budget years?
I believe the purpose of the proposal is only for the settlement fund minimum annual payment and not for any other purpose. So, are we talking about the same purpose, or are you talking about using that loan for another purpose?
No, I'm talking about reserving some of the what is available from MPOT for future fiscal years for the same purpose, of course.
Well, if we're just looking at our budget proposal right now, that's what we're focusing on, is just the 29 million for the minimum annual payment that's due in FY26. If we don't take the full 29 million for that minimum annual payment, then the budget will have to take that hit, right? The budget will have to be reduced by that amount. So if we only take 15 million, where's the remaining going to come from? It's going to come from the general appropriations. And we're trying to avoid a cut, right? We're trying to avoid reduction of hours. And so if we don't take the 29 million at all, then we're going to have to cut the budget. And I know OMB has a scenario there of what that would look like if we're not successful at all. But I mean, that's another consideration that you're bringing up in terms of, if we had 29 million, are we going to use it all for this one fiscal year? The answer is yes, if we want to avoid a cut.
Right.
Yeah.
But then we also have to think about fiscal year 27. If based on all that was presented today by MVA, and we can be hopeful that we can recover in fiscal year 26, but we're gonna be faced with the same issue fiscal year 27. And if we've maxed out all our resources in terms of what MPLT is able to offer, what's our saving grace for fiscal year 27? aside from the tourism industry coming back, if that, that's what we're hoping to see, are we expected to see a 29 million increase in our projected revenue for fiscal year 27? I mean, can we project that far ahead based on the current the way things are going right now in terms of these delays in airplanes and all of that stuff? I mean, our concern is using up all our resources right now and not thinking about what's going to happen in fiscal year 27. Are we just delaying the inevitable of an austerity, or is there any consideration where we cut hours by 4 in hopes that it won't be 8 hours in fiscal year 27, if that makes sense? We're only I hope that makes sense.
Yes, it
We're
does.
talking
I'm
about
just
29 million
waiting.
pension bond
Yeah,
from MPOT, and that's
it's
our
a
last resource.
fair and valid question, and I see your concern, and I'm sure every other stakeholder is concerned as well, from the retirees to the current employees, and so my first answer to that is we are concerned about now, right? October is just around the corner. And if we can prevent any cuts, that would be our first priority. And so we want to be successful with this MPLT pension bond. The question is now, what's going to happen in 2027? Well, we do have some time between now and 2027 to make some decisions. And I know that is why the administration is prioritizing the 902 consultations. We're trying to use every resource that we have, right? That's number one. Of course, is reaching out to our federal partners and seeing what other assistance, financial assistance for government operations that we can get. And that is a top priority of this administration. Second, the reason why we are leveraging MPLT right now is because we're not able to access other markets due to our current audit status. And so we have an audit catch-up plan. We have the support of our federal partners, and part of that plan, which OMB, OGM, OPA, we're all part of this single audit committee, and we have a goal, a very aggressive goal, to catch up with our 2023 and 2024 by September of next year. And so with that said, we're hoping to work closely with CETA so that we can unlock other markets for us to get a pension obligation bond again until such time that our economy recovers. Otherwise, what else can we do? I would say that's what the executive branch is doing. In the meantime, we also look to our leaders here at the legislature to open up other opportunities for us. And I know that there's other industries that are, being presented to you guys, and those are all factors that we can consider when we're thinking about solutions to the net pension liability, which is our retirees, 75%. So again, it's very hard to forecast out when our tourism industry is volatile right now. But again, it's about stabilizing. What can we do to stabilize? And that's the presentation with MVA, is they need at least 10 million to have a good, ideal situation where tourism is stabilized. That's one. But we're also thinking about the retirees and our obligation to the settlement fund. And all these things are moving. But I can tell you that what the administration is doing is trying to find other resources now. We're trying to schedule the next 902 consultation, and we are moving forward with our audits so that we can unlock other markets. And between now and then, we do need other opportunities to open up. And so we're really hoping to have that alignment and that support between the legislature and the administration, because the last thing we want to do is impact government operations, critical operations, and reduce hours. So again, we support the governor's proposal as our primary strategy on board right now. And so again, I would welcome you to join our meetings with MPLT so you can share your concerns as well, and we can at least move forward, if not with a different plan of action. But right now, the clock is ticking. October is around the corner, and if we don't, then we are facing 20 million plus budget cut. And I think that would be more painful than what we're looking at, the hotel occupancy tax right now.
Thank you. And I guess maybe the chair can inform us of when those meetings are being held. Because I think it is something to consider in terms of, if we don't take the 29, what will the fiscal year look like if we were to agree on a certain amount, with the understanding that portions would be reserved for emergencies, or whether it be for the following fiscal year. Because 29 million is what the administration is asking for, but looking at the budget, we're still seeing funded vacancies when we should be focusing on the reduction also of some of these entities, or not filling any of these vacancies, especially when some of these positions are not needed. But we're still seeing funded vacancies, whereas in the past it was strictly taken out. And so those are some of the efforts that we hope to see from the administration in terms of trying to save on to cut expenditures, especially when it's something that we can operate without. And so I look forward to those meetings, and that's all I had for now, Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Manglonia. Donald, before I recognize any member, Council Bermudez wish to just share some legal analysis or legal statement with regards to the discussion at hand.
I guess you guys saw the House Concurrent resolution, and they included the 29 million as part of the budget based on the contractual obligation with the settlement fund. But then they included language in there about the 29 million proposed loan with MPOT. So is it the administration position that we should not include the 29 million in the budget?
Again, we're going to stick behind the governor's proposal, and our proposal is to be successful with the pension loan. And if we are successful before October 1st, then we don't need to include a $29 million payment out of the general fund to the settlement fund. And this is not the first time we're doing this, right? This has already happened in the current fiscal year. And so what we're trying to avoid, again, is just a cut, because we don't have to. We're already in discussion with MPLT. They have shared exactly what they need to move forward, which is legislation specifically on the repayment of the withholding of the interest to MPLT. And we believe that that can be successful within the month, sooner rather than later. That should be something that is entertained now rather than later. Because if so, then the current budget is sufficient to meet the minimum obligation to the settlement fund. However, if we are not successful and we do not get the legislation, then of course, to balance the budget, you need to put in the 29 million so that we can pay the settlement fund, but also we would also have to cut across the board if that's what's being presented by the House. So again, we support the governor's proposal, and I believe we still have time to be successful to secure that pension loan and avoid any budget cuts. So again, Council, it can go both ways.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Secretary. And I acknowledge your insistence, but I want to. I don't want to make any pose my next question, but I want to give an opportunity for Senator Cruz to pose his question.
Thank you, Chairman and Secretary. I understand that if that request is not approved, it's going to be within the numbers that we have, right? The 29 million. Now, how much are you guys, or how many hours are you guys anticipating for cut across the board? If we don't approve that, the request of the administration that we're gonna get that 29 million within what we have and pay the settlement fund. How many hours are you guys anticipating?
30,
30 hours?
yes.
Okay. Assuming we approve that and we didn't meet the anticipation from MBA, for example. Here comes 2027. That's gonna double, right? We're gonna need to pay. We obligate to remit again payment for the settlement fund, right? Right? Every year we have to, right, to pay the settlement fund.
Yes, according to the settlement agreement. yeah.
Yes. So here comes 2027 budget, and we don't meet MBS projection. Where do we go from there? It's going to be massive.
So
Either
I
reduction
just
of force,
want
right?
to again clarify MVA's projection is only one tax category.
Because I was thinking, I understand. I'm supporting MBS proposal. That's only 10 million, right? Compared to 29 million, right? They're proposing a budget of 10 million. Scenario 1, right? If they still don't meet, that's below 29 million. So it's not going to be a huge amount of reduction, right? Can we try out on this first and see how MBA is going to bring revenue to the Commonwealth? Of course, with the collaboration of other agency to come in and help out, and how we're going to bring revenue to the Commonwealth. But if we're doing one thing and then another thing and add up everything, we'll end up with nothing.
I think to answer your question, Senator Cruz, we must do both. We must support MVA at the same time. We must pay the settlement agreement.
We have to,
yeah.
but we have to do that because it's by settlement agreement. That's a law. Otherwise, we're gonna end up with, I don't know what the district court is gonna, Joe Stan's gonna do with the request for receivership, and if they will go into receivership, I don't know whether that's a good idea, because we won't be able to probably to get more of that general fund, but rather district court would tell us what to do with our funding, right, with revenue. So that's what I'm saying. Can we go with this? Just go within our budget means what we have now, and then we'll see what MVA will bring in collaboration with other private hotel association and other stakeholders. Because if we're doing both at the same time and something goes wrong, what is the next plan? What will did you guys meet already with MPLT before this meeting that you're talking about? And
We've
to
met multiple
getting
times with
another
MPLT.
29 million. Have you met them? Have you met them before the meeting that you're inviting us to participate? Have you met them in regards to this proposal, the governor's proposal?
Yes.
And
Every time we
they're
meet with
comfortable
them,
in
it's-
giving another. They're not thinking about high risk of the MPLT funds.
When we meet, we're specifically meeting about the governor's proposal and the pension loan. We are not discussing what other initiatives that they may have for the MPLT trust. But I'd like to go back to your question on
Because I trust them with the funds.
with MVA,
You know, that's why. No, MPLT.
MPLT.
But if they keep giving out and there's nothing future assurance whether our economy is going to go up, because nothing is guaranteed here. We have to see it first before we say that, yeah, it's working, right?
Sorry, what's your question?
No, my concern is for MPLT to do their due diligence, not just keep giving out money from there, and if something goes wrong, then what? Are they gonna be like, for example, gonna say, oh, we'll give you another couple of years before you start paying, or they want another agreement with every month. We're paying every month, right? For that last, for the EDA, how much?
No.
Not?
We have the interest withholding, and that is the repayment for the U2 loan, which is what they're considering carrying forward into the pension loan. So we're
Okay.
not paying every month to MPLT.
So they just withhold those interest
Yes.
earned from,
And use it as
and then
repayment.
they're gonna hold another future.
Well, that's what's on the table right now, right? Again, if this body does not support the pension loan, then we must discuss what the cuts will look like. And like OMB just shared, the cuts will look like 30 hours. Because we would have to pay the settlement out of the general
That's why we
fund.
have to support MVA
Yeah.
of their proposal and start bringing in, start promoting the cinema and bringing in tourists.
Yes.
Then we'll go from there. Because we
Yes,
feel.
I support MVA as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Cruz. Thank you, Secretary. Any other member before we get to? You're good? Secretary, any further discussion? Even Ms. Special Assistant to Management and Budget, if you want to share?
I just wanted to share again and, add on to what the Secretary of Finance, that we're here to ask for your support on the governor's proposal, because then that would keep us all at 80 hours. It would provide, the public services that we need to deliver, but also the emphasis that MPLT, the trustees, wanted to see the stakeholders, because they're open to helping us. The impact on the people, the retirees, that, if that doesn't go through, what's going to happen? It's either we give the retirees the 75% and cut everybody else. I mean, we've been through austerity so many years already. When is this going to end? I don't know if you have heard Congresswoman Kimberly King Hines. She had sent out a letter to, I believe it was to the governor, about the potential legislation that I think is going to be introduced regarding allowing the territories to borrow up to $1 billion. That would be great for the Commonwealth, because right now our current debt service, not including this 29 million that's going to come up, if that is included, that's approximately almost $18 million in debt service that we have to pay every year. But if we can avail to that 1 billion full faith and credit by U.S. Treasury at the current whatever Treasury rate at that time, that would be a win for us. We could pay off all of our debt service that we have, and then we can add on to help MVA fix our infrastructure, whatever we can do. I think the maximum is $1 billion backed by full faith and credit of the U.S. Treasury, hoping that thing is going to go through and that's going to, help us in the Commonwealth.
Thank you, Ms. V. Senator, go ahead.
It's not that I'm not supporting for 100% 80 hours for the government employees, but it's reality, not our economy isn't very bad. That's why I mentioned that, because another that, because the report, unless that report from Commerce is wrong, 130 corporate closures since 2024, and it says over 130, and for business license cancellation since 2024, 150. So we're only talking about MV bringing in tourists, but those businesses are not there anymore. That's why I'm very concerned about how we're going to be able to pay another 29 million to MPLT. I'm just saying. Thank you, Chairman.
I think, yeah, I think the writings are on the wall, no, Secretary. It's not because we don't want to engage, it's just we're treading carefully because a lot of reports coming in from the GAO to the audits to, you know, our debt service, that's what Ms. V was just saying earlier. So a lot of it is incumbent upon members, at least from the Senate, to tread carefully in terms of the numbers being tossed around. We definitely don't want to displace payroll by all means to any member of the public entity. But at the same time, also, we want to safeguard, you know, what's going to happen next. Because if I understand it correctly, and I haven't seen any document, or if I understand it correctly, then it's a multi-year amortization. So that means the dividends that's paid out every year is spoken for already for just one fiscal year of MAP. So and that is a discussion that needs to be constantly be talked about moving forward. Piggybacking on Senator Donna Manglonia's request, does it have to be 29? You know, does it have to be 29? I don't know. But also, you know, looking at, I remember Barclay was here not too long ago. They were fishing out potentials, but with our credit rating being not so pleasant, it's very difficult for them to you know, service any POB at this point. So I think we need to, in the long run, we need to really focus on that too, see how we can make that whole, so that we can forego the 29 million instantaneous just to put to rest 1 year and flip the coin for the remainder. And I know it's strategically it's doable, but you know, it's treading carefully is the key, and that is the reason why that the Senate is, at least some of the members we're treading carefully basically in terms of the numbers that are being tossed around. So unless any other member have any, we're ready to adjourn this meeting. If I understand it correctly, we'll be taking up the concurrent resolution in the next session. I anticipate. I understand there is a call for a session tomorrow, to which we're going to discuss and dispose of the concurrent resolution. And you're invited to be here, Secretary, and if you wish to join us tomorrow for the session, you're always welcome here, or any of your team members. All right. Thank you, members, and thank you, Secretary. Thank you, Ms. V and staff. Thank you, to the OB staff for assisting the members. And I also thank the general public that are watching virtually, and the ones that are here this morning, all the agencies that participated in the discussion. We do appreciate all the conversation, the guidance, as always. And with that, the Fiscal Affairs Committee meeting stands on recess, subject to the call, and I wish to resume tomorrow at 10 o'clock a.m. or stand corrected. We are on recess. Thank you so much. Thank you.